I started noticing something. Reading news, thinking about history, looking at events I lived through or others I read about. The same pattern kept appearing. How shocks destabilize frameworks. How different groups respond differently to the same shock. How settlements emerge that preserve more than they transform. At first I thought it was coincidence, pattern-seeking bias. Then I went looking. History, political theory, systems theory, Ibn Khaldun, Fernand Braudel, modern structural theorists. Same pattern, across centuries, across disciplines. Not because history is mystical, but because institutions are persistent and structural constraints repeat. But here's what I discovered. When I first read Filmer and Hobbes, philosophers defending absolute authority, I resented them. They seemed like intellectual cover for oppression. Then I put them in historical context. Filmer writing to defend monarchy against regicide. Hobbes writing during Civil War chaos, terrified. They weren't defending oppression in abstract. They were responding to shock, to uncertainty, to the terror of institutional collapse. Suddenly, I understood them. Not agreed with them, understood them. And that understanding changed how I read the entire pattern. When a shock hits, something the old framework said was impossible. It breaks the legitimacy holding the system together. And then 5 things happen in sequence. First, the unthinkable happens. Second, the old elite try to restore it. They fail. Third, multiple new frameworks compete. Fourth, backlash intellectuals defend the old order. And they're often more sophisticated than the new frameworks. And fifth, 50 to 100 years later, a settlement emerges. But here's what's crucial. That settlement usually preserves more of the old order than the shock logic would suggest. Why? Because the shock creates 3 groups with radically different interests. The harmed, who benefited from the old framework and now feel shattered. They control institutions, banks, militaries, universities, courts. The liberated, who were oppressed and now have momentum. They have moral legitimacy, but they lack institutional power. And the confused, who need parts of both the old order and the new. The confused group decides the outcome, and they usually land with the harmed group, because fear is more powerful than vindication. This isn't just history, it's happening right now. Understanding these asymmetries means you can see where real leverage is. You can read what's actually happening underneath the rhetoric of change. You can organize differently. Over the next 2 weeks, we walk through 6 moments where this pattern held. Watch for the asymmetries. They're there. Subscribe. Join the community. The first video drops soon.